Right now, Virginia Tech in front. NC State not too far behind. Wolfpack got quite the presence here today. Expect that presence to continue. Pitt and Stanford 3-4 right now. And you see Virginia, UNC, and then Duke. But the Hokies, an impressive showing so far, but not too far behind. Wolfpack kind of in that mix as well, trying to get that top spot. Yeah, absolutely. And we got Wolfpack here, Troy Holman, who was starting the year at 125 pounds for the Wolfpack, and he had a ranked win coming up to 133. And honestly, Holman's the type of guy who's incredibly scrappy. He's the type of guy that you'll put him out in the match and he's going to wrestle hard for a full 7 minutes. And those are the type of guys you want in your lineup. So, guys who compete with that type of intensity, they usually find themselves in every match unless someone's truly just that much better. And Troy's the type of guy who's put himself in a position to win every single match he's been in, despite not having an undefeated record. And so, he's on the backside, but hopefully he can pull this out. And I'm a little biased. That'd be great for NC State. But, Priest is a good wrestler as well, so this should be a good match. I think when you hoist a national championship banner for one's alma mater, you're allowed to be a little biased when it comes to that. That's my personal opinion. No, I appreciate that. Thanks for the support, so I don't look like a crazy guy. But he's got a tough matchup here with Priest at 141. This is going to be challenging. And again, it goes back to keeping them off balance, but also staying to the scouting report a little bit. You have to keep them guessing, but also go with the normal attack plan. It's never easy to execute, as you know, once you're out there. Yeah, absolutely. And then you think about the psychological aspect of the sport, too. When it comes to postseason, right, everybody wants to win. You want to win a conference championship. You want to win a national championship. And when that opportunity gets taken away, when you lose on the front side of the bracket and you get sent to the consolation rounds, sometimes it's difficult because you didn't come for that, and so that can be a little discouraging, and sometimes it's hard to get up for those matches and your energy might not be the same. And so you have to figure out how to basically pull up your bootstraps and get ready to go again and come with the same intensity that you would have had if you were still on the top side. We're still looking for the first points of this match at 141. Holman and Priest. Still a minute left. So kind of feeling each other out. Nice drag opportunity there by Priest. And Priest was doing a good job taking ground, trying to get Holman to the edge. And obviously Holman did a great job circling back. And now he's the one who's got Priest on the edge. And what I'd like to see here from a wrestler who's in this type of situation is you want to pressure forward. I think for me personally, the tactic or the strategy here is continue to control the hand fight, pressure forward, get him to the edge, and make him a little bit uncomfortable. Try and overwhelm him and force maybe a bad shot that could create an opportunity for you to run the corner, maybe a go behind. So that's what I'd like to see from these guys. But now you're seeing some offensive opportunities, a little bit more action, which is great at the end of the period. And that's important because if you score at the end, that changes the momentum of the match. Absolutely. And it's those last couple of seconds, sometimes, like you said, in the prior match, you come in, you're locked in, and you're ready. Even when there's 9-10 seconds left, it can be the difference between a win and a loss. Absolutely. And it's huge, too, because let's say you give them a score with 10 seconds left in the first period. It doesn't give you a ton of time to escape. So rather than it being a 3-1 type of score going to the second period, it's 3-0, which is that 1 point makes a huge difference when it comes to the third period. Certainly. No, there's no doubt about it. And we're still scoreless here so far. 141, Holman and Priest. Oh no, here we go. Good wrestling here. Holman trying to wrestle. Priest doing a good job. Almost had those shoulder blades on the mat for a second. Wow, way to wrestle. Good intensity here by both guys. Ton of effort. They've ratcheted it up in the second. And now here come the points, 2-1. That was big. I mean, that really could have dictated a whole lot. I mean, if Holman would have gave it back points, that would have been. You don't want to be sitting in a situation like that going in the second period. So great job for him, continuing to fight, get off his back, and honestly working for the reversal. What has gone into that first period where there was really not nearly as much action as there's been about 40 seconds here? They want to just hit it harder in the second? Yeah, so typically in the first period, you got two type of guys. You got one guy that wants to
pull the trigger and just letting loose right away. And then sometimes you have guys that are trying and they're a little bit more tentative. Sometimes, too, if you're on the backside, you lose, you're done for the day. So there's a little bit more risk involved, a little bit more pressure because you don't want to be out of the tournament. And so guys tend to be a little less risky, you know what I mean? Sure. Because if I lose again, I'm done for the day. So sometimes that plays a role into it as well. But these guys definitely started to open up as the match has kind of gone into the second period. Homan with another takedown here. Beautiful shot, by the way. Great finish.
That's a big takedown to give him a 5-1 edge, and here it is.
Great job. And notice how he's keeping his shoulder tight here, and he doubles off. Typically in this situation, if I'm the defensive guy and I'm Priest, I want to create space and separation between me and Homan's shoulder. That allows me to move my hips, readjust my position, and continue to defend. But Homan did a great job staying glued to his hips, didn't allow him any space to move, and did a great job securing the finish. Here he goes again, staying incredibly tight here. Now, Priest is doing a good job. He's got a cross rock, and Homan, beautiful opportunity. Great wrestling by both guys.
Able to escape was Priest. Rewarded with the point, 5-2. Waning moments, second period. Homan with that takedown, the difference so far. Final couple seconds. We know they're valuable, and they're content to pack it in for the next period.
That's big for Homan. Going into the third period with a 5-2 lead.
They'll look to try and finish it off, and for Priest, try and rally. At 141.
I'd like to see Homan work hard here on top. Sometimes that can be a momentum killer. You know, if you can ride a guy out for a full period, that takes away a ton of confidence. One, it requires a ton of energy, but it really does a good job shifting the momentum of the match.
Priest gets another point, drawing a little bit closer.
And the tough part about that is, from a tactical standpoint, the longer you can keep him down, the less time he spends on his feet. And that means the less opportunity he's got to work for a takedown. You let him up, or he does a great job escaping like he has, he's got a lot more time on his feet to try and find that score that's going to either get him the lead or tie the match. In this situation, it's what's going to give him the lead.
You can see the intensity, you can see the hustle from both of these guys. Just at that last toe on the mat. And another point for Homan. Now 6-3. If you're Priest, how do you try and salvage this?
You know, so one takedown ties the match and sends it to overtime. And if I'm Priest, you got 1 minute and 15, and if he knows what the clock is, you got to start your sprint here. Because typically some guys wait until about 30 seconds to start the sprint, but most guys can kind of weather the storm for 30 seconds. You start your sprint a little bit earlier. You're typically about 1 minute left. And if you're active that entire time, hopefully the guy's fatigued enough, his position starts to get compromised, and you find more chances and more opportunities to hopefully win the match.
So I'm hearing that you started your sprint with about 1 minute left if you were ever in that situation where you had to.
Typically. Sometimes I started a little later, and that's when it didn't work out for me. But the times that I did start it early, it ended up working out. And man, I tell you what, fatigue definitely plays a huge role in these matches late in the third period. That's what I love about wrestling. It's about digging deep. It's about getting tough, and it's about overcoming adversity. And it's just as much mental as it is technical.
Priest able to get 3. The takedown ties it up. Just like you said, he started the sprint, and now we're tied at 6.
Yeah, unfortunately for NC State, you know, it's not what I want to see, but as an athlete, you know, I got to commend Priest. He's doing a great job. He's hustling. He's really, really working hard. And when you do that, typically things end up going your way.
What's going through Homan's mind right now, having just blown the 6-3 lead? It's tied. How can he bring it home?
Urgency. I got to get out. I got to get out. And if I'm him, I'm continuing to move as much as I can. You can't think about what the score is. You can't think about how I just gave up a takedown. You just got to continue to move on. You got to have short memory and work for the next best thing. Keep kicking. Keep kicking.
Here comes the sprint to the finish.
It looks like this one's going into overtime. Right. We got ourselves a match.
A terrific one at that. It looked like Homan was in control early. Priest battled back. He gets the takedown. And now here's some overtime.
This is what wrestling's all about, man. You're in the backside of the bracket, loser goes home for the day, and now we're in overtime, and this is where the stakes are really high. These are the type of matches that I feel like fans really enjoy getting to see. This makes me think of, NCAA Blood Round. It's very similar.
It's the conference championships, the Consolation bracket. As you said, win or go home.
See guys being a little bit more tentative here. Not as much activity or intensity.
Priest changed that for a moment.
If I'm Holman, I want to control elbow on the far side. See how his left hand's down? If I can control Priest's elbow, he's doing a good job on the right side. And I want to work up to my feet if I can. Get my head up, find space, get back to neutral. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time underneath somebody, because the longer you spend down there, the more they have time to think about what can I do to try and create an opportunity to get points on the board. And for me, those short offensive positions where I found a lot of scoring opportunities. Holman over here trying to convert.
Holman and Priest.
Wow, we got an incredible scramble here. Holman's got to get height.
And there it is for Priest. He comes from behind with a takedown and pulls out the win.
Wow, great job for Priest. I mean, he wrestled hard. He didn't give up. He continued to stay diligent. And typically when you do that, matches tend to go your way. Heartbreaking for an NC State alum like myself, but you got to give credit where credit's due.
It's the agony of defeat for Holman. As you said, both athletes, they wrestled hard until the very end, and just victorious in the last moment is Priest.
You feel for these athletes in moments like this. I know what it feels like to be on both sides. And it's tough, man. You work hard, you put a lot of sacrifice into your craft, and you're disciplined and you're committed for months on months. And when things don't go your way, you question everything. And it's a tough spot to be in. And it's difficult, and I think that's part of why wrestling is one of the sports that molds character better than a majority of other sports, because you have to deal with that a lot more often than others do. You don't get to point the finger to your teammates, to your peers, because you're the only one out there on the mat. So obviously feel for Holman and all the other athletes that have lost so far today, but they'll be better for it.
I think when it comes to wrestling as well, there's obviously the physical toll that gets most of the headlines, but kind of that mental toll as well. You have to be incredibly mentally strong.
Absolutely. It's difficult, man. You got to overcome a lot of adversity. You got to come over a lot of failure, and you got to be able to shrug it off, because if you're not, it's difficult to get up with the same energy and intensity that you did at the beginning of the tournament.
It was hard fought. Priest coming out victorious as we moved to 149.
Busgins here is a great wrestler. Well, he's done a great job for NC State so far this year. And Abbas, his father, was an incredible wrestler at the NCAA level too. I believe he was an NCAA finalist. I can't remember exactly how many times, but his dad was really, really good as well. Ton of skill. I believe he lost to Lincoln McElravy of Iowa. And man, if you watch that match, it was an incredible match. McElravy ended up winning, but I believe Abbas's father had the lead right out the gate. And it was a fun match to watch. And Abbas obviously comes from a great pedigree. And Busgins, I remember before he came on campus and was enrolled in school, he'd come down a couple times while he was still in high school in Minnesota, while I was still in the room. And man, he was scrapping like he'd been there already for months.
Junkyard dog mindset.
Absolutely, man. So he's great. He's still learning, and I think he's got a bright future. So it's great to see him here competing.
How big is that jump that you make from high school to college? I mean, you talked about Minnesota. He comes from there. He comes to college. He continues to make that jump. How big is that leap? Because for some people, it could be bigger than others.
Yeah, I think it depends, how early you start the sport, what coaches and partners you're around, and what type of community you have around. And it's difficult. It varies athlete to athlete. But for a guy like Busgins, I mean, the transition is more an experienced one for him. I believe his skill level has been there since he's gotten here. I believe physically he's been ready to go since he stepped on campus. And I think it's just a matter of getting used to the experience of NCAA wrestling, being in the dual environment, being in the collegiate tournament environment. And it's like anything else. You just need reps.
No doubt. That was repetition so key. Move from the high school to the collegiate level. This match, much like the last with Homan and Priest, so
great
feeling each other out.
That was beautiful timing. Abbas did a great job continuing to extend the position here, diving for the ankle and scrambling. If I'm Buskins, I want to keep my foot on the mat. Abbas is continuing to wrestle. Height wins here. So Buskins got to try and get up. Abbas has got to try and get up. And whoever is able to get height first, I feel like is going to put themselves in an advantage and win the position.
Buskins applying some pressure. There's still 22 seconds left.
Great shot, by the way. The timing was really well executed.
Those final moments of the period, so important, so crucial.
You know, timing, I feel like, is something that doesn't get talked about enough in wrestling. It's a concept, right? But applying it is incredibly difficult. And that's one of the things that goes into the transition from high school to college. You know, for a guy like Buskins, understanding timing at a more elite level is going to make a huge difference for him. You know, because at this level, right, if I decide to pull the trigger too early, I might shoot into great position. If I decide to pull the trigger too late, right, that guy might recover from whatever he was reacting to, and he might be in a great position to defend again. I got to find that perfect window where I can change levels and pull the trigger, and he's out of position. And timing plays a huge role in that, and learning how to apply that and understand that concept makes a huge difference at this level.
That goes back to what you were saying about repetitions and how key it is. Trying that out, the trial and error process, trying to make it work, and then you execute it on the mat. That's easier said than done, of course, but again, goes back to the reps.
Yeah, exactly. Look at you, man. You need to put on a singlet.
No. I'd be in the heavyweight, and I would be quickly dominated by the opposition. We don't need to see that. There'd be a fastest pin. It'd be me. Buskins applying some of that pressure toward the end, but he falls behind in a 1-0 score.
Did a great job here. Abbas has got inside control with his right hand. Buskins, really great single leg again. And so another thing that is important to understand at this level is being able to anticipate well, right? And that kind of falls under the umbrella of timing, but you know, you start to get used to setups, different feels that your opponents will give you, and you start to get a good idea of like, oh, his hands are here. He's probably going to shoot. Probably going to shoot a single leg. Next thing you know, you start anticipating, guy pulls the trigger and he shoots this exact shot that you thought he was going to shoot. And that allows you to stay a step ahead. And hopefully you can capitalize on those opportunities and turn them into points.
Abbas with a 1-0 advantage. Still 40 seconds left in the period. Virginia Tech right now atop the conference standings at the moment throughout this wrestling championship series. Not far behind NC State. We saw those standings a little bit earlier.
Buskins doing a good job. Looks like he's controlling the center. Abbas trying to circle back. What I would like to see is I'd like to see Buskins get back to that single leg. Here you see him kind of extending the arm there. But if Abbas goes back to that right hand collar tie and Buskins hangs over the top again, I'd love to see him do that elbow tap single that he hit earlier.
1-0 lead for Abbas. As we ramp up for the third period. Still just a 1-0 score. Kind of waiting for that big moment where someone breaks ahead, kind of like we saw in the last one.
Yeah. Another thing that you talked about, when you're talking about what goes into that transition from high school to college, bottom wrestling. That's typically where you see a lot of guys struggle, especially the younger, less experienced wrestlers who get to college. They have a tougher time getting out on bottom. I think there's a little bit more intensity that goes into top wrestling when you get to college. Guys are a little bit more seasoned, they're a little bit more experienced, and two, they're just a little bit grittier than a majority of the competition that you face as a high schooler. So Buskins obviously did a great job. He's been doing a great job so far this year, but you know, that's one thing that he's done a great job in terms of transitioning from high school to college is his bottom wrestling.
All tied at 1 apiece. Buskins getting the last point. Could be headed for another extra session. Never know when that's going to happen again. We saw one.
Oh, beautiful shot here. He's got to keep his shoulder tight here. He's hunting for the head. Hopefully he can convert here, but Abbas has a crotch lock here, and that's going to be really difficult. Buskins is going to, it looks like he's struggling to improve his position because of that, but if I'm Buskins, I'm trying to elevate that bottom foot off the mat. Just like that, get height. I would try and get that right arm through and swim it to the far side, just like that, and now I'm going to put weight towards that hand. Beautiful. Great job by Buskins.
He's able to escape and get 3. That's massive.
Great adjustments, way to continue wrestling and find a score. That was a great job by Buskins. Over a quality opponent. Now here, you want to put a ton of pressure forward. I want to get a bunch of weight towards my opponent's hands. Beautiful job. And this is where,
hold on.
It's great wrestling right here. 15 seconds left. It looks like he's going to finish this match on top.
Had him in the crotch lock just a moment ago. He's able to escape. And Buskins, the last few seconds, they tick off the clock. And Buskins, the NC State faithful here inside Cameron Indoor, they love it.
Boom, beautiful shot by Buskins. He did a great job keeping his shoulder tight, and Habits did a great job trying to defend the position. As he continued to improve, he kept wrestling, he found the score, he got the lead, and he finished on top. Gritty win, and as you can hear from the arena, the NC State fans are excited, man. That's great, especially for the team race, which I'm happy about, and I'm not ashamed to admit.
Wolfpack Nation has come out in a lot of different sporting events. The women's basketball team in Greensboro was well represented as well. They got to the championship game. It seems like everywhere they've got a good representation.
You know, Moore's done an incredible job at State, and that women's basketball team has been incredible the past couple of years.
Back at Cameron Indoor Stadium, 2025 ACC Wrestling Championships, the Consolation bracket here at mat number 1. As we shift to 165, Kessler and Fields.
Derek Fields has been ranked this year. He's done a great job for NC State being in the lineup. You know, unfortunately, same here on the backside, but man, he's really made some jumps in the time that he's been at State. And I actually wrestled with his brother. I might have graduated at the time, but Matt Fields, his older brother, wrestled for the Wolfpack, and he actually graduated law school from Campbell University and is still around the Triangle. But great family, great wrestling family, and yeah, obviously, I'm rooting for NC State.
Oftentimes, you get those familial relationships on the mat, and it's not every day, not too uncommon that you'll see a couple of brothers out there or a long line of family members. We saw that earlier with the couple of other wrestlers as well. And it's always cool when you get that line of wrestlers from one family and they're out there on the mat again. Yeah,
you know, NC State has actually had quite a lot of brothers on the team. I remember we had 3 sets of brothers when I was there, and then you had the Hidleys, the Fields. My younger brother's currently on the roster as well. So not sure what that's about, but it's cool to see. Kessler's doing great as well. He's a good wrestler, tough competitor. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys decide to let loose here on the backside at 165 pounds.
We saw Briar Priest already claim a victory over Troy Homan in the extra period. An impressive victory. He trailed 6-3 at the time, came back and pulled off the win. And now a similar matchup, this time Kessler and Fields.
So right now you see these guys battling for the inside. We haven't seen a whole lot of offense, but you see these guys trying to control distance, manage the distance, and fight for the inside control. So right now, Kessler just punched for an underhook, but Shields has got that left-hand collar tie. And right now, you just see a ton of management right now is what I see. These guys are trying to manage the hand fight and find opportunities. Shields did a great job changing levels there and creating an opportunity of his own. He's building up. He's got to stay tight here, and he's got a circle here. He's got a circle. Can't sit still.
Attack down low. Able to just avoid some of that contact for a moment more as we hit the 40-second mark in this first period.
Great job by Kessler there to kick out and continue wrestling. Got to capitalize on those. Those are big opportunities, and those points make a difference. Every single point counts.
We've talked about throughout the broadcast how those last 20, 15 seconds, that can be the thing that shifts the match. And we're at that threshold now. Who can try and gain that separation?
Good snap there by Kessler to try and create some sort of opportunity there. You know, Shields is doing a good job dressing that underhook, though. I've seen Kessler try and punch that lefty underhook several times, and Shields did a good job releasing his collar tie hand and keeping his elbow tight to prevent that from happening. there's a ton of little battles that go on there in the hand fight, and even though we don't see a ton of action and maybe there's not a whole lot of level changes, there's a lot happening there in the hand fight that makes a huge difference, and honestly is what creates opportunities for the guys.
What's the ultimate goal of some of that hand fighting? I know, of course, you want to try and continue that physicality, but what do you want it to lead to with a successful game plan with the hand fighting?
Yeah, you want to create angles, you want to create opportunities, and, you know, I call them windows. I want to create windows, right? I want to create as much space as possible, because when I change levels, and for me to get to your leg, there's got to be enough space for me to fit through that window so I can actually get to a lock. And so when guys are real stingy, they keep their elbows tight, they got great head position and a great stance, there's not a ton of space to work with. So if I pull the trigger, I'm just going to meet great position, and I'm not going to have much of an opportunity. So what we do is when we're hand fighting, we're trying to pull guys, get them to overreact, create heavy angles, get them to square up, and we want to create space so when we change levels, we can go through that window and get to a lock and start working for a finish.
Try and find those windows. That's the key as they get ready to start this second period. Officials talking things over for a moment. And now they're ready to go.
Kessler's doing a good job trying to find that control with the hand. If he can, he's going to try and get that elbow inside. If he's able to get that right elbow inside, it's going to make a huge difference. But Shields did a good job changing the position here. He's got that leg. So we call that sealing off. And if Kessler can get that elbow inside and seal off, he'll be able to find an escape. But Fields is doing a great job being real stingy, and he's doing a lot of work here on the front end to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Time clock at 31 seconds. Minute 29 of the second period. The 165 weight class. Consolation semifinals here at Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham. 2025 ACC Wrestling Championships. For it again. Some of that hand fighting up top, able to escape for a moment.
Good wrestling, great effort there by Fields. 40 seconds of riding time. It's not bad, I'll take it. Great level change there. You saw that reaction from Kessler off the level change, and those are the type of things that also help create opportunities. You use your hand fight to try and create those opportunities, but your motion does is pretty useful, right? It's another accessory. It's another thing that you can use to create opportunities, and that goes back to the timing there. Shields did a great job changing levels.
And Fields gets the takedown as the riding time continues to increase. Fields jumping in front.
Great job here. Now he's just got to work to get him flat. Obviously, Kessler's doing a great job building up here. He's going to try and peel that hand and get that left elbow inside to try and seal off and work for his escape. Fields is doing a great job, again, being stingy and putting a ton of effort in on the front end. Kessler with a nice Granby roll, finding an opportunity, got an escape and went straight into an underhook. Here, boom, blows through. He starts elevating that foot, which was great, and that's textbook. That's exactly what you want.
Kessler fighting back. Final second period, 3-2. Fields with the takedown. A minute 11 on the riding time. Setting up for a tremendous third period.
Now, that riding time's huge, but he's going to have to get out in 11 seconds if he wants to keep that riding time point. That's not a ton of time, so he's going to have to be he's going to have a big sense of urgency here on bottom. And if I'm Kessler, I got to do whatever I can to shave off at least 11 seconds before he gets out.
First moments in this period could be so crucial. Kessler can't get him, and Fields gets out of it.
That was a huge moment. That was a huge moment. That right there could potentially determine the match, because if Kessler gets a takedown, the score's tied. It doesn't give him the lead, because as of right now, he's got the riding time point with the 4 points, and the score's 5-2. So one takedown would sit in overtime. But if he would have held him down for at least 11 seconds, let's say he scores a takedown, that gives him the lead.
Those first couple of seconds, like we said, so critical, so crucial to a winning effort.
There's a lot of little moments that play a huge role in determining the outcome of the match, and you got to know when those moments are. You got to be able to identify them, and you got to know when I got to give everything I can to try and win those moments.
It's kind of that sprint like we talked about earlier. Do you start at a minute? Is that the moment for it? Do you do it with 30 seconds? Is that the moment? It's a hard line to walk.
Right, absolutely.
Approaching a minute left.
Oh, good job trying to convert. Kessler was trying to convert there on a go behind, and Fields was able to find a leg and get to a lock, and now he's in on an opportunity of his own. He's got to stay tight, and he's got to pull him back in. I'd like to see him get height. If I'm Fields, I want to get height here. There he goes. He starts to get height, and that's the difference. Kessler's doing an incredible job seeing the wrestler. See how he stuffed the head there, and now he's trying to sit the corner. He's got to put a ton of weight on Fields' head if he wants to win this position. And obviously Fields is doing a great job trying to build up to prevent that from happening. But man, these guys are wrestling great right now. This is some good wrestling. Right now he's keeping that head stuffed. Notice how Kessler's putting a ton of weight on Fields' head so he can't build up and improve his position. And now he's going back to sit in the corner. And again, Fields has got to get height. And you see this little battle that they got going on here. And it's a lot of back and forth, to be honest.
Just 5 seconds.
Stuff in the head, going back to the corner. Wow. What a finish.
And Fields hangs on to win at 165. We got the riding time point at the end for good measure. It was high level, and it was nip and tuck for a moment there. But Fields comes out of there with it.
Great job wrestling from both guys. I thought they both looked great, and honestly, I thought they fought to the very end. I think that little battle right there was exciting to watch, and both guys are doing exactly what they need to do to try and win the position.
It's win or go home, and that creates another sense of urgency. And you said you've been there before in that type of situation. And when there's no tomorrow, there's, of course, always the opportunity to empty the tank, but you always have to think about the future, too. Kind of try to walk that line. Do you empty it all here? In a situation like that, you may have to.
You know, my approach is you got to empty the tank, because if you don't, there's no guarantee that you'll have another match. So if you don't empty the tank, and that ends up being a contributing factor of why you're not wrestling the next day or why you're not wrestling in the next round, it's like you're going to think back like, I should have just let it go, you know, and you deal with the consequences afterwards, and you know, maybe you expend all your energy for the day, but I'd rather do that and give myself a fighting chance and keep wrestling in the later rounds or in the next day than be sitting at home.
Well, Kane will continue on throughout the championships here at mat number 1 Cameron Indoor Stadium on the campus of Duke University. 2025 ACC Wrestling Consolation Semifinals here at mat 1. We ramp up further.
Here we got Christian Knopp from NC State, who I've spent a tremendous amount of time around. Wrestled with him, trained with him quite a bit. Great wrestler, an even better person.
Knopp and Smith at 197.
Little boot scoot attempt there by Knopp. Representing Alabama, his home state.
More hand fighting, trying to gauge that distance as well.
Yep. Little post high crotch attempt there from Knopp. Andy Smith looks like he's trying to hang on the head quite a bit, be real heavy on Knopp. And, you know, that's a tactic that some guys like to approach matches with as well. Wear on them as much as you can in the first period, and hopefully that plays a role and allows you to create opportunities later in the match.
If you can wear somebody out in that first round, that first portion of the match so far, how important is that when you get to the third, when it comes to not only the physical aspect, but the mental aspects too?
I think it's super important, you know, because guys who get worn down, their position starts to suffer. They don't fight defensively as long or as hard. And so a shot that you might have taken in the first period that wasn't close to finishing, you take that same exact shot in the third period, it might be a really easy finish. And sometimes if you're able to wear guys down and just trust the strategy where I'm going to come out aggressive, I'm going to hang on the head for a majority of the first period, maybe it's a really low-scoring first period, but if you continue to do that throughout the match, come third period, you might put up bonus point numbers. You know, you could win a match by 8 to 10, maybe even 15 points just because the guy's gotten so fatigued and tired that the points start come easy.
We talked about fatigue throughout our broadcast, our telecast today. Just such a big factor, especially when you have to empty the tank like you do in the Consolation semifinals.
Right, and these guys are doing a great job. I see a lot of great overtie snaps from Knopp here too. But Smith is doing a great job being very persistent with that right-hand collar tie. And he's been keeping that elbow down, and there he goes with the overtie snap of his own. Back to the collar tie. Overtie snap attempt I think we'll see from Smith. Christian Knopp here on the inside now. I bet you will see Andy fight. I'd like to see a shot attempt from Smith here. I think Knopp's the one who's taken more of the opportunities and chances here. Obviously, they haven't been very close, but I think, you know, being the aggressor is important. I think that's how you put yourself in a position to win the match.
Final seconds. And we'll see who goes with the continued state of aggression in the second. And now they start down. Big round of applause for Matt too. Matt Church, Charlie Derricott on that mat.
How quickly Knopp gets out on bottom is going to be important here. And he can't get flattened out. He's got to do his best to not get flat. He's got to keep his base here. So he's working really, really hard. He gets up to his feet very, very quickly, and boom, turn and face. Really good job finding his escape.
What's the ideal amount of time when you say quick? If you want to get out of it lightning fast or very quickly, what's that amount of time frame to you?
You know, if it's anything under 10 seconds, that's quick. I personally think. I think that's a great amount of time. I think if you can get out under 10 seconds, that's ideal. Almost really, really interesting opportunity there by Knopp. Looked like he was behind, had control of the hips, up on the feet, but wasn't able to get to a lock or get Andy down.
Knopp with that 1-0 advantage.
Knopp looks like he was controlling the center there for a moment, but now Andy Smith is back to center.
Control the center, went for low.
Man, Smith is doing a really good job just hanging on the head and being real heavy. He's got an underhook now, and if you see that little tiny detail, if you notice, he's keeping Knopp's head covered with his chest and with his head. And that makes things really, really difficult for Knopp, who's trying to get his head to find space so he can get back up and out from underneath Smith. But Smith was doing a great job being stingy. He had the underhook, he had the head and chest covered with his chest and his head, and sometimes that's another way to wear your opponent down.
That's a lot of weight to have on a pretty important part, the head and neck area.
Absolutely, and if you're able to do that consistently, if he could get to that position multiple times this match, I think that would wear on anybody, to be honest. But Knopp is doing a great job just making sure he's being very, very diligent about fighting back inside and getting to control ties of his own.
1-0 advantage for Knopp. Two more minutes. Could not bring it home, or can Smith rally back? He's able to get out of it. That was in about 6 seconds. That was pretty quick.
That's pretty quick. That makes a huge difference, like I said, because it gives you a lot of time to work on your feet. Especially, let's change the situation. Let's say one of these guys is down and you need a takedown to win the match. And maybe the other guy's got riding time. Maybe he rode you out for a good bit. Maybe he rode you out for a minute in the second period and he got a riding time point and you're down. Well, you don't want that to continue because you know the score is 2-1. And if you can get out quickly, then you have more time to work on your feet, which means potentially more opportunities.
No doubt.
Good defense here by Knopp. Andy Smith did a good job rolling his head out. 3 takedown for Andy Smith. You know, that was a really good transition by Smith. You know, Knopp had great defense. He squared up, he stuffed the head, and as he squared his hips up, Andy Smith was able to react and roll his head to the outside, change the position, and double off and find the score.
Now he's racking up some riding time as well. At the 30-second mark now with a 4-1 lead after the takedown. Smith in the driver's seat. Does Knopp have one last final burst in him?
He's got to get out. First thing you got to think about is you can't think about, man, I just gave him a score. You just got to get my next point as soon as possible. That means getting your escape and getting back to your feet so that way you can work.
Again, it's those last critical moments. Knopp trying to dig deep. Smith trying to finish it off. He's over the minute threshold for riding time.
Last Granby roll attempt there for Knopp. And Andy Smith will finish the match on top.
Smith picks up the victory. The takedown, the big turning point in this match. And the Hokies continue the top team so far in the ACC with another win.
So right here, you see Knopp have great defense here. He's able to square his hips up, and notice how Smith is able to roll his head to the outside and double off. That was beautiful. If he wouldn't have rolled his head to the outside, I believe Knopp would have been able to defend that successfully, but he did a great job being aware and rolled that head to the outside to change his position and give himself the advantage. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. You know, Virginia Tech with the team race lead. Virginia Tech, NC State matchup. We lose that head-to-head here at 197 pounds. That's unfortunate, but you got to give credit where credit's due. Andy Smith did a great job making that adjustment there in that exchange to find the win.
And Neves will go to the mat, continuing the heavyweight consolation semifinals. So the heavyweight bouts will continue.
Looks like Trumbull forfeits to Neves, and I'm sure there's a good reason for that. Coaches know what they're doing, and obviously Trumbull's the type of competitor that'll fight through anything. So, you know, not entirely quite sure why the decision was made, but I know that whatever it is was the right decision.
So by forfeit, it's Neves who wins.
Welcome back. It's the Consolation Finals, and for some of the weight classes, it means everything, including at 133, where we see Knox from Stanford and Oakley from North Carolina. And gentlemen, with 3 qualifiers, the winner of this one is into Philadelphia. Congratulations to Ethan Oakley. He has punched his ticket to Philadelphia. Do want to shout out Stanford's coach, though, Chris Ayers. They got a good one, a 4-time Ivy League Coach of the Year during his time at Princeton. Just a couple years ago, Princeton was 13th at the NCAA championship, its highest placement in program history. So Stanford saw their coach head to North Carolina, but they didn't mess around. They got a good one in there.
Yeah, he brought some of the guys with him. He's got Pat Bruckey on staff, so some of those guys that were culture changers over there are now at Stanford with him as well, and you know they're continuing to do big things out there in California.
Yeah, Sean Gray. They bring in Hayden Hidley, the ACC legend, out from North Dakota State, and they've got a good thing going. Yeah, Hidley Mania there.
So we head to 149 now.
This is a rematch of a first-round match, I believe, that we saw earlier today between Geoffrey and Bizgens.
Geoffrey winning that one 4-1, and then would lose to Caleb Henson.
Geoffrey has been impressive today, getting to his offense, working off snaps, good scrambles all day.
But here's the thing, Rhino. If you have a good double leg, you don't go away from it when it comes crunch time. And if the gray camo singlet was working for you, why would you go away from it when it's crunch time?
This is true. You got to look good, feel good.
I think that was known by a man, Primetime, coined this phrase, and he seems to be doing big things still. So I agree with this.
You brought it.
I tried. I don't think I ever looked good, but I felt good a lot.
Well, I'm talking about right here today, right here, right now.
I'm trying to get someone in the booth here to wear a matching velour tracksuit thing with me. There we go. We're in on a shot here. We're scrapping it out. Now, both of these guys, there's a little bit of pressure off of them, and why is that, Dean?
Yeah, they're already in. Well said. They're already in. 4 qualifiers. Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you just said that because I was getting ready to ask, like, when you know you're already in, I liked what you said about gold, silver, and bronze. I mean, to me, that's what they're going for right now, right?
And it is. And sometimes, and a lot of guys will wrestle in that way. Some of these guys, once they've qualified, just let everything go and go for broke and start going for throws or positions that they're just trying to try before the NCAA tournament. So we can see really exciting on the line, right?
Potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was just going to say. If I'm a coach again on coaching staff, the 2 things I'm telling them are, 1, guys, we're looking for feedback. So if you go out there, you just hold position and you don't do anything the entire time, we don't get a whole lot of feedback to use come NCAA tournament time. The second thing we're looking at is seeding gets seeded 1 through 33 now. When we were in school, it wasn't always that way. So that matters, and you got to go out and battle for your seed because it might be the difference between facing, you know, the guy that wins it or a guy that, you know, is around a 12 guy that you can pick off early. So all of this matters, especially with team race implications at that tournament.
Absolutely. For NC State here with Biskins, they're going to have to, they're looking at competing for a team trophy, trying to get more guys on the podium. Win this match, put yourself in a better draw, give yourself a better opportunity in the first round of the tournament. Maybe you start to trigger a cascade for other guys and build that momentum.
There you see the placement points as well, as you mentioned on the team side. 10 for first place, 7 for second, 4 for third, and 2 for fourth.
Yeah, I mean, double the points here if you can win this match then. So you're going to add 2 more to your team total because I'm sure they've given them already with advancement points thus far. So you do that, you give yourself an opportunity to pin someone or put some bonus points up, and you can quickly rack up points on the backside.
You see so many of these fans in here still focused on this match. There's still a lot of NC State folks in this room cheering on Biskins.
We still have quite a few 5th place matches to run as well. And then they'll do one of the quickest.
Nice check mark up to a high C as you say that, Dean. He gets up to his feet. This is the same situation I've said over and over again. I hate the opportunity to finish on the edge. I want to walk him all the way back. See, he only took a couple steps there. Put him back in the middle of that ACC logo and then give yourself the opportunity to have all that real estate to score.
He's going to give a chance for Biskins looking for a cradle here. Joffrey wise to it to say, I'm going to get right out of bounds. But I agree with you. You know, you've got a great opportunity to score there. You can be patient. There's a minute left in the period. Slowly getting somebody back to the middle, give myself more room to work.
Joffrey with that epic matchup against Solomon and Pitt to put himself in this spot where he knows he's headed to Philadelphia. And now, as we just broke down, trying to earn some extra points for Virginia and hold off the leaders, NC State.
Good job attacking the hands there by Biskins to prevent that score. Yeah, Joffrey's brought a lot of excitement today.
The overall team leader, though, Virginia Tech, they're way ahead of NC State right now.
Yeah, they're having a really impressive showing. The guys they have needed to win have gotten the job done, and looks like they're going to be on their way right now in a strong position to win the team title.
So a 1 0 lead for Biskins.
Now, if I'm getting set here, I see how his feet are angled, Dean, and I'm going to get set on that side so that he doesn't have the opportunity to go that way. Those are the things as a coaching staff, too, that I'm noticing. You know, maybe I'm not familiar enough with these guys' games. I don't follow it quite as close as I used to, but those are the little things that I was noticing, and some of the things that were the difference between, you know, Mitch Feinsilver and Austin O'Connor one year in the ACC championship. Those things, they add up. They're very small things, but, you know, like I alluded to earlier in the broadcast, I think the first 15 seconds and the last 15 seconds of these periods are where a lot of these close matches get won or lost.
That's where something that we're, you know, high-level coaches will notice that as well, about the kind of starting position, you know, even coaching that. I know a guy like Jake Pataxel, who is a great top wrestler for Purdue, really talked about that setup, noticing things, that the chest pressure that you put on, putting that pressure as you get set on top to set yourself up for success. We're gonna have a minute to go. Really no riding time kind of relevance here, and takedown likely wins this match. Nice reshot by Joffrey.
You've seen that out of a couple of those NC State guys today, that parry single. I really like that. You reach across with the opposite side hand, you just bump it up enough to get that, you know, thumb block or that inside tie off of you, and then you drop underneath it.
Good, safe, high-level offense as well that works at the highest level. We see that working at the Olympic Games even. It shows it's been a point of emphasis in that room. Seeing a lot of it here from the NC State wrestlers today on mat 2. He went again for it. Good shot by Corey here. He's going to try and come out the back here. Joffrey in this waterfall position. He's going to roll through, and we're going to end up in a 50-50.
Yeah, I'm going to try to clear his hands off of my foot and then elevate with the back. Yep, just like this.
This is where you can start to threaten that danger position as well. And avenging a loss from earlier, Coy Biskins ends up taking third for NC State.
And you put Joffrey in a unique situation there. You have to almost give up the fall or give up the takedown. He conceded the takedown instead of the fall, but I mean, that's what you have to do at this level.
Yep. Well-controlled scramble finish for Coy Biskins as he comes back, avenges a loss in the first round, and fights his way back for third place.
Exciting match. Wrap it up 149.
We'll see 165 here.
So we go to 165, where there's 5 qualifiers. So again, as you mentioned earlier, Jacob, both of these wrestlers already qualified. We'll still have the 5th place match. We're going to have several 5th place matches.
And this will be the 3rd time I believe these guys have wrestled this year. Fields the higher seeded guy for NC State against Mac Church, but Mac Church has gotten the better of him twice.
Yeah, and as you commented earlier, Church is known to have a traditionally a little bit more like 3-to-1 style match, as he again pulls to that football carry we saw him have success with in the Consi semis there, and he looks to score maybe with a dresser dump or a spin behind like he did in that match previously.
He's a guy who likes to wrestle from the open a lot, and then will kind of jump into that front headlock or football carry, as you said.
We've got Tony Roby and Jared Hott in the corner for Church, and we've got Tommy Gant and Kevin Jack in the corner for Fields here.
4 guys who all look like they could still go.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 guys that all-American and had very successful careers, and I would guess they're scrapping it out every day with their guys still.
Yeah, Tommy Gant had a gas tank for days. Unbelievable head pressure. He's an asset to have in that NC State room. As a leader, keeping your own athletes on your coaching staff, training, it only helps kind of the next generation of your culture.
Yep, and that's exactly what you see with Jared Hutt over there in Blacksburg too. So on both ends here, you know, these are programs that have kind of announced themselves as prominent players in the national landscape, and they've continued to keep their homegrown talent at home and continue to develop the program overall.
Heard another roar from that Stanford crowd as Miranda ends up coming all the way back for 3rd place.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. That's what my dad used to always say.
Pride on the backside.
Don't say that, Rhino. I didn't have a lot of luck on the backside. Oh. It wasn't because of lack of effort. A little bit of reckless abandon, I think.
Fields from NC State, Church from Virginia Tech.
The eye gouge there. Not purposeful, but good eye by the official to blow that dead.
Yep, that way you don't have to take injury time and then result in the consequence of the other opponent having a choice here.
Yeah, we don't want to see any, retinal detachments or significant corneal damage that forces any wrestler to sit out or have to take injury time because of a move that gives somebody choice. So I appreciate the officials noticing that, giving Fields the necessary time and getting back to neutral. We're even using medical terms today.
And we're letting you do that, Rhino. I can barely pronounce the names, but we appreciate having you here with us.
Tony Ramos keeping us, on board with pronunciation guide. We appreciate it.
Yes. It is Lachlan McNeil, if anybody out there was wondering. As we are here with Derek Fields and Mac Church at 165. We have 5 qualifiers at this weight, so both of these guys are going to the tournament, but like we had just said, there are team race implications as well as seeding implications, as well as getting feedback to make adjustments going into Philadelphia, in my opinion. That's all very, very prominent and important.
Absolutely.
Jacob Casper breaking into play-by-play and gets his name tagged, including the Julius Creed. WWE, love it.
There you go. Jacob Casper, Julius Creed, Mr. WWE, Mr. UFC, Mr. TKO, whatever you want to call me. We got green choice. Now, I think this is important. I think it's important to get that first point on the board and kind of establish. I personally would like to get the opportunity to ride second, because if you can eclipse that 1 minute of riding time after riding second, you effectively get another point. If this does end up a 1-1 match, but you have that riding time point, you're really up 2-1 with the opportunity to win the match.
And I completely agree with that. It just gives you more information to kind of build your third period strategy. If it is a 1-0 type match, or knowing what you need to do to have that choice to then impact the match. So I completely agree with that, and that's why Church went underneath. This match, Virginia Tech's up in the team score, still does have some implications for the fans in the building. Also a little Ohio PA match here. Fields from Ohio, Church, Pennsylvania state champion. So some pride on the line, and both the kind of college rivalry as well as that state rivalry, and thinking about the wrestling landscape here domestically.
Fields riding tough there, had a big lift in return. Shane Sparks would have liked it. I liked it. I always like going claw lift. So riding tough here. We're at 28 seconds of riding time. And again, that's kind of the number to watch here, in addition to the action that's actually taking place, because if you can eclipse that 1 minute of riding time, which Fields is unable to do here, it would result in an additional point at the very end of this match.
Both these guys are really stingy, difficult to score on. Who's going to open up that angle? Who's going to move someone into an attack? I mean, both the matches they've had have been razor thin.
It's interesting. If you watch Fields' footwork here, his back foot trails behind his right leg, and that's when he has the opportunity to really shoot and explode. But before that, he stays in a relatively square stance as he's from the open, and you can kind of time when that foot would go to place then. I would like to see him maybe shift to more of a staggered stance where he's going to have the opportunity to cut his body in half, have an opportunity to rip that attack off at any moment.
It's good live feedback that they can talk about in any sort of film review. I mean, these are both guys who like to operate from a square stance and from the open. Church at times likes that misdirection low single, but again, you have to switch your feet, you can time that up.
And as we've talked about quite a bit on the broadcast, there are many different styles. I was much more of like a pressure wrestler where I tried to keep the intensity high and attack rate high, but some people hold positional place instead and try to limit scoring, and there is no right and wrong, and everybody's got their own style, so I'm just shouting out what comes to mind as I watch the action.
Derek Fields, the redshirt junior from Brunswick, Ohio, and Brunswick High School, trying to get on the board, trailing 1-0. And this will be his chance as he'll go down to start the second.
See what kind of ride Church can put on. Again, he was very effective here from the top position in high school. Hasn't had quite that same success in college. Fields seals off immediately, and he's right out.
Now Derek Fields looked to avenge 2 losses that he had in regular season to Mac Church, as Mac Church gets dinged with a stall call here.
Yeah, he lost to Church on December 6th by a score of 4-2, and then 2-1. Wow, both tight, Jacob.
Yeah, super tight.
Yeah, and I think if you see a takedown, granted there's a little bit of time left, you might see another 4-2 score here one way or another, because both of these guys were somewhat ineffective in being able to ride each other. So you might see another score similar to 4-2 here.
Both have started to pick up their footwork, switching stances. There's Church looking for that misdirection. Fields in on a leg.
This is where you're really going to have to chain 2 and 3 attacks or re-attacks together. You see these 1 and dones or even 2s aren't quite getting it done, so it's going to take one more. It's going to take one more attempt. It's going to take one more level change, one more angle change to be able to allow you to effectively get in on a leg and give yourself an opportunity to win this match.
Church again looks for that misdirection low single, and Fields is very wise to it.
Great head hands defense being displayed. We haven't even really seen the hips come too much into the equation yet. That presents a whole nother problem and decreases the likelihood of finishing, as it looks like we've got some blood time.
Fields going to go to back-to-back nationals, having gone last year.
He was a guy who needed an at-large last year, had a tough run at the ACC tournament. Going to feel a lot more comfortable this year, getting one of those automatic berths.
Yeah, I haven't been in the room with guys that were both on the receiving end and the wishing end of those at-large berths. It's never a fun process. You have to show up and continue to stay in shape, continue to manage your weight, continue to work hard without knowing really whether you're going to get the opportunity or not. And, a lot of the time those bids would come out as we were beginning a practice, and then, some of your teammates are elated, some of them are deflated, but they're still there willing to work with you. So it's an emotional process, the at-large process.
Absolutely.
We're slapping at each other here. We're throwing some attempts out. These guys are trying to get active for you.
We're looking at another 1-1 overtime match here on mat 2.
I love it. Bonus wrestling is what I call it, Dean. You can't give me enough wrestling. I won't get sick of it. I love overtime.
We all do, and we've seen a lot of it at mat 2.
We have seen some barn burners, both low scoring, some high scoring scrambles.
Pat Papalizio, assisted by Zach Esposito, Kevin Jack.
Oh,
wow.
And Fields really went for broke there.
Great commitment.
Church rolls through.
Man, you got to elevate here. Derek Fields kind of just locked down and held on to the foot.
Church
you needed
gets
the opportunity to continue to wrestle there.
And another big win for Virginia Tech, and Mac Church ends up in third place. Another overtime victory for him as he builds momentum for the national tournament.
Yeah, that one seemed a little bit personal. He keeps looking over to NC State's corner, so I'm not sure if he heard something there or what's going on.
He's talking to Tommy Gant.
He continues to celebrate as he walks off the mat.
We've got some contention over here.
Coach Roby walking over.
Roby's not one to mess with.
No way.
A little bit of a fun feud that's been going on between NC State and Virginia Tech. You know, I think it really just alludes to the passion that these coaches and athletes are putting out, the effort that they've spent every single day this season trying to get ready for the end of the season here.
Yeah, there's a lot of love there. You know, you foster a brotherhood in the room with your teammates, your coaching staff. They're your family away from home for a lot of these guys. And, you know, when they see at the highest of highs and the lowest of lows through your career, and a lot of emotions come out at these types of events.
So Jaden Scott and Troy Holman will come up. We saw Holman and Priest with an incredible match earlier that went the way of Briar Priest, and now Holman and Scott will go head to head.
Look at Holman ready to go.
He's locked in. He's dialed in, ready for it. How's the fatigue factor for these wrestlers here? You've already had a couple of matches. How are you trying to manage that fatigue?
Well, I'll tell you what, they're definitely feeling it.
Yeah.
They're definitely feeling it. Usually by the end of the day, end of a tournament, first of all, they're long mornings. Long mornings. You're at the facility all day. You cut weight. You've weighed in. You've wrestled a couple matches. You feel better because you rehydrate, you refuel, you got food in you. You're not worried about how much what the number on the scale is. But the intensity of these matches, all the adrenaline, the cortisol, all the stress, anxiety, the emotions that you're trying to juggle and deal with, couple that with all the physical demanding aspects of the sport, by the end of the day, sometimes you feel like you got hit by a car.
That's what really separates the good from the great, I suppose. If you're able to get up off the mat and then continue with the grind, continue with the preparation, continue with all that goes into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you're managing it throughout the day. You know, as soon as you get off the mat, rolling out, trying to do whatever recovery stuff you can do. You want to fuel properly so you have good energy. You know, sometimes you don't feel that way, but there are times where you do. And tournament days are long. So, you know, at the end of the day, it definitely requires this aspect of being able to dig deep, and you got to be gritty.
Recovery so important, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. And just nutrition. You know, it's a long day. If you're not fueling your body with the right things, it's going to be even longer.
It's a good point. Those are the things that many people don't think about when it comes to wrestling, kind of that game outside the game.
Absolutely.
Holman and Scott still looking to make their mark on the 5th place match here in the 2025 ACC Wrestling Championship.
Nice shot attempt there by Holman.
Holman had the lead against Briar Priest, wasn't able to hang on. Jaden Scott falling to Jason Miranda.
Nice heavy club there by Holman. I like how physical it was. I like how aggressive it was. I wish he would have done something, try to create some sort of action off of it, but really, really good.
How hard is it to try and capitalize on a movement like that? You make a good shot. How are you able to capitalize on that? How challenging is it?
It's tough. It's tough. Are you talking about specifically off of the snaps or whenever you're on a leg?
Let's talk off the snaps.
All right. Off of snaps, it's tough, man. Like, sometimes you're just being super physical and aggressive because you want to get rid of his tie, you know, because you feel uncomfortable. It's a little overwhelming, and maybe you feel threatened by it. And so you got to do whatever you can to get it off. And so sometimes you're not thinking about offense, but there could have been an offensive opportunity there. Certainly. You know, so there's that aspect to it. But if you do it right, sometimes it just depends. Depends on the timing. It depends on the feel and what type of reaction you get. But
And a takedown for Scott in the final moments of the first.
Most of the time, it's a lot of work.
I think just about everything with wrestling, I would think you would agree, is very hard and a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's Scott with a takedown.
Nice. So you notice he had that little micro movement. He had that little fake. Homan reacted, and he worked off of that reaction, found space, got it on a leg, and was able to find a score.
Homan will start on the mat.
Almost locked hands there.
Riding time continuing to increase for Scott. Brings him to the mat once more.
So he's doing a good job elevating that foot, coming back around, getting his hips underneath, trying to get the mat return. It looked like Homan made a switch attempt there. But he's doing a good job keeping his base. He's not letting himself get flat, which is super important here.
Riding time almost at a minute already for Scott. 59 seconds. Right near that threshold.
If I'm Homan, it's super important that I get out this period, especially if I'm going to give a riding time point. I have to get out. It's going to be a difference maker there in the third.
Gain a little more separation if Scott's able to get that riding time up further, and he does. Can Homan escape his grasp? And can Scott continue to apply pressure? Scott has been so good just maintaining the grasp and the hold.
Absolutely. Little Granby roll attempt there. I like the idea. Scott was able to stay on him.
Scott creating more of that leverage and an escape. Homan gets on the board.
So here we go. Obviously, we're not seeing a ton of movement here, but this is where guys are gauging pressure. This is where they're processing what they're feeling, trying to think about what they want to do next based off what they're feeling. And that's those little tiny aspects of wrestling that you don't necessarily get to see visually, but that's exactly what's happening here.
Under 10 seconds. Creating that leverage, creating the pressure. 5 seconds. Scott with a lot of riding time as well. 1:35. Now Homan will need to come from behind in the third to try and escape with a win. Scott starts on the mat, eating into that riding time. Is this a situation where once it gets under that threshold, under a minute, do you try and start that sprint a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And you also got to think about how long do I want to spend on top. So if I'm Homan, I want to spend just long enough to get rid of the riding time point, and then I'm probably going to cut him.
They'll need at least 11 more seconds.
Because that's a point you can take off the board. If you can get rid of that riding time, it's huge. Now the score, instead of 4-1, it's 3-1.
And if cutting into it further.
Boom, now he's got that riding time off the clock. And if I were him, I would start cutting him.
It's down to 52 seconds of riding time, but 1:15 left in the third period. And 1 point for Scott for the escape. So what he lost in riding time, he regains with that escape.
Absolutely. But that's okay, because if he wouldn't have shaved in the riding time, now the score's 5-1, and 1 takedown doesn't do it. But now the match is within reach, and if you score a takedown, you can send it into overtime and stay alive. Give yourself an opportunity to still win the match.
60 seconds for a takedown for Homan of NC State.
Now here, an underhook's a good strategy. Why? Because I'm able to slow the guy down. He's not able to move a whole ton, and I can kill the clock. There you go. He goes back to that underhook. There, he's trying to kill the clock, maintain control. I don't even know if he's really looking for offense. I think he's trying to manage the clock here, which is, I mean, wise for him. But if I'm Holman, I got to have more urgency. I got to get rid of that underhook. I got to get my head out. Ref knows what's going on. So I like that call by the ref, honestly, by the way, because you want to see action. Fans want to see action, and also refs want to see action.
There's a shot down low for Holman. 21 seconds. Can he manufacture a takedown? Can Scott hang on?
Oh, we might have something cooking here.
6 seconds.
Wow.
5 seconds.
If I'm Holman, you can still score a takedown in 5 seconds.
Scott trying to evade the grasp. And Scott hangs on. He wins the 5th place match. Jaden Scott takes down Holman.
Good match by both guys.
Hard fought, a lot of strategy in that match especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jaden Scott with the win. Hard fought and well deserved.
It's only fitting that we have Jacob Casper, a.k.a. Julius Creed, here for this, as Connor Barquette
earns his allocation with a medical forfeit.
Very, very cool to see. You know, you never hope to get a medical forfeit, so best wishes to Isaac Trumbull from NC State. But to see another heavyweight from Duke University punch their ticket, we've been a little bit of upper weight and heavyweight U. I'm very, very excited for Connor Barquette, and excited to see what he does in Philadelphia. You just punched your ticket to a very, very elite and exclusive group here from Duke University. Make the most of it, young man.
I am beyond proud of you, Jacob Casper, a.k.a. Julius Creed. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank the Rhino, Dylan Ryan, who does amazing work. Dr. Dylan Ryan, Chad Lampman, our producer, and our entire crew. For each and every one of them and all of you, I'm Dean Linke saying so long and reminding you to tune in at 8 o'clock for the ACC Wrestling Championships on the ACC Network.